The ancient High House in Stafford is one of the oldest Elizabethan buildings in the country, and it's one of the finest examples of Elizabethan timber framing in existence. It was built in 1595 for the wealthy Dorrington family, who were prominent wool merchants. The construction of the house itself is fascinating. Many of the original timbers bear carpenter's marks, which indicates that the frame was pre-assembled on the ground before being erected on site. The house has witnessed significant historical events, notably during the Civil War, and over the centuries the house has undergone various changes. Today though, it's a museum, and you can go and visit and take a look around inside, and we'll go inside in a moment and have a look around. The building is Grade 2 listed, and the details in the wood are absolutely phenomenal. I imagine many people in Stafford walk past this every single day and probably don't pay much attention to it, but I can't stop staring at it every single time I'm in Stafford. And it's definitely one of my favourite museums to visit, purely because the building itself is a museum. But as we head inside, I'm going to start from the top and work our way down. You can go right inside this building, right up into the attic. And as you walk around, you cannot help but be amazed by the architecture of this place. The attic room is home to the Museum of the Staffordshire Yeomanry. And it's a fascinating history that takes you back through all of the wars, almost up to modern warfare in like World War II. And there's plenty to see just on this attic floor. But like I said, this isn't just a museum full of stuff, the building itself is a museum. Like this here, there's little bits of like graffiti and marks everywhere. And it's strange to think when you're walking round 4 stories up that you're being supported by wood in a building that's 400 years old. I would just like to take this moment to make a point. This museum is completely free to visit. You can drop a donation in at the reception and there's a little gift shop, and I would highly recommend donating because every penny goes to the upkeep of the building. And you can even get married here. I mean, we're talking 400 years ago. There was no drills, there was no, battery powered tools. This was all hand labour. So we'll head down these beautiful stairs, and as we head down these stairs, you can see all of the marks in the wood, in the stone, where the masons and the carpenters would have handmade each individual thing that would have made this building. And I love that everything in this building is exposed. You can see all of the details. And there are a few sneaky little staircases that you're not allowed up, and I would love to see what's up there. The museum is set into different rooms. This is so that you can see the different eras that the house has lived through, like this beautiful Victorian room. This is definitely my favourite room, but I am biased because the Victorian era is pretty much one of my favourite eras. It's just an aesthetically beautiful era, isn't it? Let's be honest. You can't walk into a room full of Victorian furniture and not be amazed. It's just beautiful. And I wish I could take every single one of these books home with me. Now this is incredible. As you walk around the museum, make sure you look at everything, because these beams have got the original wallpaper on them. And just look at that detail. As we head downstairs, we now go into the Stuart room. Now this room is a little bit more sparse than the Victorian room, but the glass in the windows and the bed definitely make this room. During the Tudor age, glass was becoming more common in wealthier homes in England, but it was still a luxury item. And the glass was made up of diamond-shaped panes called quarrels and held together by lead cames in a lattice pattern. And this style is often referred to as leaded glass, and it's a really good characteristic of Tudor architecture. And I do have to say, I am thoroughly in love with this Stuart bed. How gorgeous is this? One of my absolute favourite things about this building, though, is the wonky floors. We know that wood expands and retracts, and it's been 400 years, so obviously this wood has changed shape a lot, which leaves the building slightly squiffy. But I love that after this many years, it's still this beautiful. The windows are still in fantastic condition. I mean, can you honestly imagine these horrible new builds that they're building with grey windows now, still standing in 400 years? I'd be shocked if they're still standing in 40. This is Mr. Marson, and this is his shop. Now in 1826, he bought the whole building and converted the lower floor into shops, which they still are today. Now this did give the building a new lease of life in the modern era. However, he did make some changes that didn't help. He moved the front door to the side, and the stone chimney stack was tunnelled through to make a passage to the stairs. And because of this, it almost had to be demolished. Just look at this wallpaper, it's beautiful. It's still got all the colours and patterns in it. And we're so lucky that we still have this example that we can look at. This building is a perfect example of Tudor architecture. The house was constructed using a timber frame, which basically means they created like a framework of heavy beams, and that formed the skeleton of the building. And then they filled everything else in with timbers and wattle and daub, which was basically a mix of like woven laths, clay, straw and brick. The timber framing in the high house is not just structural though, it's also decorative, with elaborately carved woodwork that was typical of prosperous homes of the era. The Tudors loved a lavish lifestyle. They loved intricately carved wood, they loved everything that was beautiful. And one of the ways that you can see this is this hand-painted wallpaper as you go down the stairs. This paper wasn't just cut and stick. It's all hand-painted with light and dark to give shadows and make it look like a 3D effect. Isn't it just stunning? As you can see as we walk around in here, it's like many Elizabethan townhouses. The building doesn't actually look that big from the front, but once you're inside or when you go around the back, it's huge. And the narrow frontage was really common in like late medieval and Tudor towns because houses were taxed on their street frontage. So in order to minimise taxes, owners built them narrow, deep and high. The building also has royal links, and the most notable event is King Charles I came to the house in 1643 during the English Civil War. He visited Stafford and stayed at the house on September the 17th and 18th, 1643. And this visit was a part of his military campaign, not long after he'd raised the royal standard in Nottingham. And this was a feudal signal, calling his loyal subjects to arms, and it marked the start of the English Civil War. He used the building as his temporary headquarters, and it was here that he discussed strategies with his advisors and dictated letters and military orders for the campaign. And some of the documents have been preserved and are housed in the nearby William Salt Library. This beautiful stained glass window with the Sneed coat of arms on it can be found in the Civil War room. And this room has been made to look just how it would have looked when Charles I came to the house. Interestingly, the house was also used as a prison during the Civil War. In May 1643, the parliamentarians, who were the opponents of King Charles I, captured Stafford. So the people who were held in the house as a prison were the royalists, the supporters of King Charles I. When I say it was used as a prison, I don't mean they were thrown in the dungeon. I mean, they were kept in these rooms, the fires were lit, they had servants. They just weren't really allowed to go out. I definitely wouldn't like the task of keeping it warm in here though, because when I was filming this it was 11 degrees in here. I mentioned earlier about the building nearly having to be demolished, and it's down to a group of people called Save the Ancient High House that it was actually saved. If it wasn't for this group of people and their love of heritage and culture, this building probably wouldn't be standing today. Well, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please go ahead and check out some of my other local history videos. And don't forget to check out my website, which is The Red Haired Stokey. Thank you.